Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, and today is going to be very interactive and fun because we are two Humboldt fellows and we are going to talk about Humboldt. We are going to talk about our experiences, especially from the application stage. And given that Sukma is done with hers and I'm just starting, it would be nice to get her perspective on what her experience was, and learnings for the future and those who want to apply for this fellowship. So stay tuned and don't go anywhere. Okay, so welcome back. As I said, today's interview is going to be very fun. This is the first time I'm conducting an interview, so I think I'm equally nervous like Sukma is. And so, a brief introduction before Sukma introduces herself. Sukma is an Alexander von Humboldt Fellow, 2024 to 2025, right?
Yeah.
And she's from Indonesia. Luckily for me, she happened to be in my department, so we've been talking since my shortlisting stage, and finally when I came, she was of like immense help to me. So we have two assignments here today. Talk about the fellowship, her experience and application for both of us, and then her experience as a Humboldt Fellow, and then lastly her research. Yes, because she made some very interesting research, and for me it was eye-opening because given the lack of data available when it comes to cycling and micromobility use, active travel around the world, especially in Indonesia, she was still able to come out with something very significant, which I think is a starting stone for Indonesia if they really want to take active mobility and sustainability very serious. So welcome Sukma, and shall I say congratulations?
Okay.
Yeah, because 1 year, it's how is it? Would you like to introduce yourself? I think probably I've done that already.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening from Germany.
Yeah.
And my name is Sukma Laristiti. You can call me just Sukma. I am from Indonesia. And in Indonesia, I work as a transport planner. I have like several works on bike lanes planning, road safety, transport and gender, and then public transport. So it's a lot of things, but my concern recently is about road safety and non-motorized transport use. We can usually say that as active mobility. Yeah, that's my concern because at home we walk, and when we go out from our door we walk. And I think the most easiest way to go around our house or neighborhood is by cycling, not by motorized vehicles or cars. That's what I did in Indonesia.
Yeah, that's interesting because I also come from a road safety background, and I'm also looking at active travel, sustainable travel, and it looks like our research is quite interrelated, and moreover that we're coming from third world countries with similar situations. At least I've been privileged to listen to your presentations twice, so I know what it is, but those here don't know what it says. But before we get to your research, how was the application process like for you?
Okay, that's very difficult question for me because I received the information about this fellowship is around November in 2022, and then I contact my supervisor. I met her in 2021 in a woman urban leader workshop, and we talked there, and that's why we have like direct contact, and she gave the information about the fellowship, and then I contact her and she said yes, we can try it, and then I need to write the proposal, and then yeah, I write a proposal started in December, and then it's finished around January after like several times of revision. Yeah, of course. I think that's the most difficult things to do.
Yeah, those are right.
It's quite so the background of my research is at that time I can say is that the question that I have since 2017.
Ooh.
But it's just like question. I didn't think about the methodology or trying to find like deeper something. Yeah, and I just think about it. Maybe I can do something like this. So my research is about, maybe I tell them a bit about this. The title is about economic sustainability of cycling, whether it can possible to give like sustainability toward the city.
So economic benefits.
Economic benefits, yeah. So from that, I try really hard. It's 1 month is very short because the longer time is like you were sending the email and then waiting for the feedback, and I need to revise again, and then all the process happen, and then there are a lot of administration things to be fulfilled. Even though I can say that the application process for Alexander von Humboldt is not really that difficult. You just need to fill in everything information, and I think the best thing about this fellowship is that you are not really need to have IELTS certificate.
IELTS,
Yes, I think that's the great thing about this, because it's like cut the budget.
Because it's not also an educational thing, it's just research. So it's very open for anyone who wants to, but you should just be proficient in English.
You need to prove that you can communicate in English, especially writing. We are working in research, of course. That's very important. And I think the most funny thing, I don't know, maybe you also experience the same or not, is that I just received the recommendation letter from my supervisor 1 hour before the deadline.
I think we both did because because I also got my like a few hours to the submission. Angela was like, "Have you filled everything?" I'm like, "Yes." She said, "Are you sure you filled everything?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Okay, now I'm going to." So I think she submitted her recommendation letter, and then I submitted my whole application, and but was like you said, you met Angela, so you knew Angela. There was a contact. I also met Angela through a program, the Move On Summer School in Cape Coast. So there was that contact, and given that I also started my application process late because it ended 2nd February, and I saw the fellowship on 28th January. That was when I started my application. Well, I had roughly 4 days to wait, but I got lucky, it got extended. Now, talking to other fellows, the most difficult part of it was finding a supervisor or a host.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
And for those of us who were lucky to have contacts, we might not have gone through that hassle, but others did go through that hassle. And I always tell people, if you really want to do this, start looking for a host or a supervisor like months ahead.
Months ahead. Try to contact them. So I have one of a fellow friend that she contacts like 7 professor in Germany and only get 1 response. But I think with all these great deals of finding the host, I think it's really good a fellowship that they support all your research, but they also support your development as a person. This is the greatest thing in this fellowship, I can say.
Because they tell you it's not a project we are funding, we are funding the person.
Yes, I think that's the best things.
And with the language program you take, the RENAC, Renewable Academy, there's always something for you to do to improve yourself. The seminars, the presentations, I think we are jumping ahead, but yes, that is it about the fellowship. It's one of the best things that I just started, but I already know the benefits I'm getting from it, and you have been through. So before I came, I used to follow you on LinkedIn, and I see your post, and Sukma is in Amsterdam, attending this conference, doing this research, she's talking to this person. And I'm like, whoa. And I think you had a presentation on the alumni,
Yeah.
Deutschland alumni portal. I'm like, whoa, this girl is like, you know, I think it's one of the things the fellowship exposes you
Yes.
to. And as a woman in science,
Yes, of
how
course.
does it feel?
I think that feels so great for me because this is also one thing that makes me think that this fellowship is scholarship
Yeah.
also very great, is that they didn't really have prejudice to you. So my problem with my historical academic background, for example, I stay very long time in the university because I study while I also need to work. And then it took me like more than 6 years. And then my work, because it's still very scarce in Indonesia, transport is still an emerging sector. So I only work like in consultancy,
Yeah.
and it's not like you work all the time of the year.
Yeah.
That's one thing that usually put me in a bad place. So in this fellowship, they asked me, what did I do during those empty timeline?
Timelines, yeah.
And I have, like, I established a community with my friends at the time about transport, how we can advocate road safety, cycling, and walking to the government, and that's what I do. And they accept that. And when they asked me that question during the first selection process, during the administrative things, I need to answer like date by date what I did in very detail. I was thinking, I maybe not will be go through the next selection process, but I pass it and I go through the next stage. So that's what I think, that this fellowship is see you as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, they are also funding early career leaders,
Yes.
prospective leaders.
Yes,
That
yes.
is the people who are doing something on the ground. It's not, you don't have to, they don't want you to use the fellowship as the starting stone, kind of, that's what I think. Right? You should have already started something.
Yes.
Yes, because I think I also got, this was even during the selection process, I got asked, what am I doing now with regards to my study? And I had to tell them I kind of lecture, so I do have some level of influence when it comes to my students to be able to preach sustainable mobility too. And for me, that was like, I think that was one of the solid points, because then I was already doing something with regards to that aside where I was working. So it's all about prospective leaders. So finding yourself as a prospective leader,
Yeah.
I mean, that was a plus. It's not about your work experiences, because there were people in the fellowship when we got shortlisted. They had worked with like international organizations
Yes.
and
Yes.
all that. They had a lot of work experience, but they didn't have the practical experience of it. And I think your project also is very practical, because the fellowship looks at how practical your project is. I got a lot of compliments during the selection process, and most of the chairpersons for the committees were like, okay, this is a very doable project. Yeah, so it's something I think future applicants
Yes.
or prospective fellows should also look at. Be doing something, you know. Don't wait to say you're getting money from here to do it. The truth is, the money's not enough.
It's just like the selection process is just like you are proving who you
you
are.
are, yeah.
Who you are. That's the thing that
Yeah.
I get from all the process, from the first selection and then the second selection.
Yeah, it's about who you are. I mean, when I remember when we were doing the interview, you were prepping me for the interview, you and Nivesh, and I think even Jack. Jack was a fellow in 2020. I was told, talk about yourself, sell yourself.
Yes.
But then the fun part was the selection process. The selection process itself,
Yes.
using 5 minutes
Yes.
to pitch in your proposal. Like, how was it for you?
It feels like you are selling something, right? Then you're selling your idea that I need to get this funded because this is very interesting. This is
Yeah.
very important for the people, maybe for your country. In a what way? For example, I do like a comparative with Germany.
Yeah.
How is important this issue to Germany and with your
Indonesia,
country?
yeah.
My country, Indonesia, and how it will be like impact the future development. That's the case.
Yeah.
That's the thing that they asked me.
Yeah, I think it's very important because we want to see how we could also transfer knowledge, share knowledge
Yes.
between Germany and our countries.
Yes.
So I remember when I had to select, I was like, what transport issues has Germany got? Because when I was here in 2023, everything seemed perfect. I was like, what can I research on in Germany? And then Angela said, no, it shouldn't be about Germany. You could make learnings from Germany. So then I was like, okay, I mean, there are so many issues. Germany is doing well. Although being here for like 4 months, I've started seeing some gaps
Okay.
and areas for improvement in the transport system in Germany, but it's far better than what we have in Ghana.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made me choose the topic I did, because Kassel has a model, UCC has a model, and I mean they are both in cities with about the same population. So yeah, I mean about 200,000.
Oh, it's not that big.
It's not that big.
Yeah, because in Indonesia we have a lot of population. That's one thing that makes me really surprised when I arrived here in Germany and then have discussion with Angela, and she reminded me, Sukma, Germany and Indonesia is different. We have like a lower number of population than Indonesia.
Is it?
You need to make sure that your comparison is correct.
Right, yeah. So yeah, I mean it's all about the project, the viability of it, and how practical it is. How would you say research in Germany is like? I mean, I'm sure when you were coming, you had this whole fantasy about researching in Germany. How have you been able to navigate it, especially the fact that Germany is very data protective? Getting data in Germany is very like bureaucratic and ridiculous. How were you able to get over it? The challenges, the excitement, can you?
Okay, so about the research, because previously I didn't work in research, so this is like a very brand new experience to me. In Indonesia, for example, when I was in the university, we don't have Wissenschaftlerin, Mitarbeiterin or Mitarbeit.
Mitarbeit.
Yeah, assistant researcher. We don't have that kind of system, so we only have lecturers who teach and also do the research. So it's like a big job to do by one person. But here, there is somebody who teach. For example, Angela teach the students, and then the other working for the research project.
Yes,
This is my first time to understand this kind of system, but I think this way makes the research could progress, because if you have too much on your plate, then you work on nothing. That's what I learned from this. And I think the best thing about research here is about, of course, access to publication. Yeah, that's the best things, because in Indonesia it's quite difficult. The university have the difficulty to subscribe,
to these journals and
so. And also I think the best thing about research in Germany is that they have very organized data, public data. That's super good, but it's also can be like overwhelming to you, that usually you work with no data and suddenly it's everything.
That's like a large data set.
And then you need to compare nothing with something. It's like
I remember your 2 million data set.
I also during my research, for example, I can finally gather like 2 million data from Indonesia, but it's not easy to gather. I got a help for that, who knows the way our government doing like recording the data, recording the data, so I can get it. And I only take like 4,000 from those 2 million. That's very difficult process for me that I'm not trained on the data analyst, something like that. But because I learned something from German's data, I know that there is this kind of data that probably exists in our country, but the form is in different way and it's very raw. So we need to do something about
cleaning,
it. Yes.
Data cleaning and all the
Yes. And about data protection, I also do interviews here. So it might be need a little bit bureaucracy process, but it's not really that difficult. You just need to follow all the requirements, and then you can also consult here with the data protection officer, and that's very easy. You can just call them and they will help you, and then they just like you will have like correspondence with the email and everything is fixed, sorted. That's that's surprising.
The ease of the research,
Yes, it's surprising because it's not going to be this way. It's not going to be this way in my country.
And I think it's for you. It's going to be a big turning point, a very big turning point for you, because looking at what you've experienced there and going back to Indonesia, like. I really wish you well, so I don't break down in Indonesia. But I think one thing you really stood out for me during your stay was how you took advantage of these conferences to meet up people. How were you able to do it?
So because they will pay everything for me for all the conference that I took. In this fellowship, they also give you a chance or two chance. It depends on how you use it to like do research stay in other institutions in Europe.
Within Europe,
So you just need to contact them whether they can receive you for becoming your host and also becoming your supervisor during your research stay. And that's what I do. So I consult with Angela whether I can have a research stay at the ECF, and fortunately Angela could help me contact with the person there, Holger, and he is very kind. That's he can be my supervisor. And that's why I can go there. For the conference, I try to pitch abstract for the conference, and thankfully they received, so I can go there.
Well, so how about networking? Because Humboldt provides a very big platform, not broad, but it opens you up to a whole community, about 30,000 alumni. How have you been able to utilize that alumni network, aside the alumni network, also the academic network you've created? How were you able to use them in the form of your research and your fellowship stay?
For now, no, but maybe in the future, because I really want in the future we have like cycling conference in Indonesia, maybe like creating Humboldt colleague or something like that. But for now, I'm just like trying to develop a network of like transport specialists. So I really want in Indonesia we can have a like connection and a talk with the other place in the world. How is the development of?
How is it going? What is being done? And what can we learn in this?
For example, because you are from the Africa, we never have connection with each other, right? And I just know recently that people in Africa mostly are walking. That surprised me, because in Indonesia a lot of people has like using motorcycles so often. Like we have almost half of our population using the motorcycle. So that's. We are like kind of different, but I think we can talk I personally I don't want that Africa experience the same mistakes that we create.
Well, and I mean, if you let me go a little into your research. If you look at the data, it's because of the social status attached to not working. So if you are having a motor, you have a car, you are saying to be, up the end. It's the same for Africa. So everyone is gearing towards that aim of owning a car. And if you remember the presentation I made where on the stump, where walking should be the priority and car should be the least priority, when you turn it and you get to the Abraham theory of needs, it is walking, use of bicycles, public transport, and then owning a car becomes the highest pinnacle in the triangle. So everyone is targeting to own a car.
Yes.
But it should change. The system should make it change, So I think, yes, going like you said, for the networking, Africa, Indonesia, we have a lot of learnings to do. Africans are not working because of sustainability, but because they are captive workers.
Yeah.
Yes, because they are captive workers. So I think it's a very good thing to explore the cycling conference. And I must say, Sukma was part of the founding organizers for Women in Cycling, right?
Where?
Women in Cycling. The one you had here.
No, I just support Angela.
She's part of the organizers.
Yeah, I just support Angela for that. But
she's very weak. She's just very weak. Yeah.
No, but I think it's a very good big organization. I think that's also the best thing in Germany, I guess, because the civil society is strong. The people aware of what they need and what they need to do, and ask the government for it. For example, you also say that the Africa right now have the captive walking.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that when you have a lot of pedestrians, then your street should be designed that way, not the other way around.
That's true.
Because that's the problem with Indonesia. Because when we have a lot of pedestrian, like in the 1960s, the government didn't provide any infrastructure for the pedestrian.
And it's crazy because, like we discussed in the office at that time, you have a population where about 80% of your population is probably walking.
Yeah.
And 2% own vehicles, private vehicles. Just let's say 5% make use of these informal public transport systems. In Ghana we call them trotro and taxis. But the whole transport system is designed to take care of the 7%.
Yes.
Instead of the 80% who are walking.
Yes.
And I mean, sometimes you just ask yourself, like, are people not thinking? Like, but I mean, we'll get to that side later. But it's a very interesting finding. I think we made from networking and finding out. Yeah. And I think going forward, for every Humboldt fellow or every prospective Humboldt fellow, this is one thing you should consider getting. Networking. Networking is very important. I know what networking did to get me here. Because past Humboldt fellows prepped me for my interview. And that is how come I am sitting here today having this conversation with Sukma. So you can imagine what lies ahead, And the fellowship grants you the lifelong opportunity to always visit Germany to do research at the fellowship's cost. I know you are going back to Indonesia because you miss Indonesia, you miss home, you miss your husband, you miss family.
No.
That is a factor. That is a factor. But do you see yourself coming back to Germany to do research again?
Yes, I still want to continue my PhD and doing a lot of more research on active mobility, especially, and maybe road safety, because I still think city in Europe has road safety better than global south. So yes, I still want to do that, and I also want to use the chance that they gave us that we can
Yeah.
go back here for like
3
just
months? Yeah.
research visiting,
Yeah, research
something.
visits. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I want to use that and like still have contact with all the people that I made here, the
Yeah.
network that I made here, because I think we can learn each other.
Yeah.
For example, in Indonesia, we always say that we cannot be like European cities because they are developed countries,
Yeah.
and we are just like developing countries. No, it's not that way, because from what I experienced here for 1 year in Germany, what they did is that they try to improve themselves,
Yeah.
like day by day, and then it's accumulated by a year,
Yes.
and then it becomes decades. That's what they do, and I think we can learn something from that.
Yeah.
It's not the perfect thing that we can do in like just 1 year. We can just like making like small step.
Yeah, and I think when we visit the museums in Germany and the rest, and you see Germany even in the last 50 years, realize Germany wasn't like
Yes.
this
Nah.
in some 50 years, not to think of their dark history days, but Germany wasn't like this way.
Yeah.
So if within 50 years they can restructure their whole system, the whole thinking, and strive to be the biggest economy in Europe, which they are in, what's the excuse for developing countries like Indonesia and Ghana? So I think maybe as fellows we should also amplify this, but I mean, our leaders know this. They travel to Europe for vacations.
Yes. Yeah, but I also often hear that they always feel so tired walking here.
Yeah, because they're not used to it.
Yeah, yeah.
So they mostly use their cars, and like, they get private cars to drive them around and all that. So we've touched a bit on your research, and now let's delve into it. Your research, and I have a rough idea about it. I know it looks at how cycling could benefit countries economically,
Yeah.
and this was based on data gotten from Germany, and you did some extrapolations with the scanty data from Indonesia, and even with the scanty data you got, the amount of money Indonesia can make from like people just cycling is quite a lot.
Yeah, I think so.
And given that you have a larger population than Germany, can you take us through your research?
Okay, the idea is like actually we have said a lot.
Yeah.
The background is
Yeah.
about the higher use of motorized vehicle for daily commuting.
Yeah.
So in Indonesia, because we have a lot of motorcycle cars, so our automotive industry like contribute to like 20% of the GDP. So it's quite difficult to change our transport system that's not rely on motorized vehicle. So usually the government say that cycling will not give the benefits, the economic benefits for the city. So that's why I'm trying to prove whether it's correct, whether it's true, and that's why I do my research here. And because here in Germany they have data better than us,
Yeah.
that's why let's just try to calculate Germans data. Maybe I can find something about the economics benefit of cycling of Germany, and then I can use it. How about Indonesia?
Yeah.
And
I want to ask, not cutting you, but does Indonesia produce cars?
there is like Japan
Japan
industry,
also? Okay.
yeah. So they open like factory in Indonesia. So you see,
But Germany has a lot of car brands.
yes,
The BMW, Mercedes, Audi.
maybe
They have the Porsche and
Volkswagen. You forgot about
yeah,
that.
VW.
Yeah.
So Germany being a motor hub is still promoting cycling,
Yeah.
and having cycling contribute significantly to its economy. Don't you think it would just be an excuse for the Indonesian government to be like, oh, automobile contributes 20% of our GDP, so I mean, you don't produce more cars than Germany does, but Germany is promoting cycling better. What
It's maybe more like a social cultural thing. So that's what I can say, the difference between Indonesia and Germany. And maybe I will go to Indonesia first. Because the people since like 90s 80s used to like motorized vehicles. They didn't even think about walking and cycling again, and the position is very low, like in the like social class, like you are poor and then you walk and then you cycle. But here in Germany, even though they produce cars, they have like, for example, sports minded. In Germany, people likes to run,
I mean,
walk,
today's Sunday,
hiking, everything that physically
make them active.
make them active, like physically. And I think that's the cultural thing that make them still using a lot of active mobility. That's the case. And then I found from like a publication, a research from Germany, like it's using the statistic survey that they did every 4 or 5 years. They found that this change also happens because people here thinking more about the importance of environmental sustainability and then the physical health for the people. And also because when a country have too many sick people, then it costs a lot for the country, so they don't want to have that. So the country try to encourage people to do like more walking and cycling. That's the difference. That's not the case in Indonesia. If people get sick because sedentary lives, and then the sick, and that's it. If you die, then you die.
I mean,
that's
you only live
second
once.
thing.
But I think one thing we discussed the other time about third world countries is the fact that yes, Germany, we may feel Germany has reached a certain level of development and can now think of sustainability, but Africa hasn't reached there. So issues of sustainability are not really important to people because even their standard of living is still poor. But one thing they fail to recognize is if you improve mobility issues like congestion, you reduce car use, you reduce pollution, you are going to have an improved quality of life.
Yes.
Then you don't have to fall sick. Now, when you do that and you reduce cars, you have more space to create parks, to create walkways for people to be able to jog, cycle, and the rest. So it's not even an excuse not to create this environment.
No.
Did you in any way see how urban planning informs this lifestyle in your research?
Not very directly to my research, but I read several publications on that. But I think that's like the foundation of to be able to create a cities that
are
sustainable and like supports people to walk, to cycle. It's the foundation. If you don't have it, then you will not have like people walking or cycling around you. That's like a very crucial thing to do.
So given the data sets you worked on and the extrapolation you made for Indonesia and the figures you got, do you think implementation should not be difficult for the Indonesian government? Because last time you said Indonesia has a lot of policies, like almost is every year a new political sound or cycling. I found it interesting. Why is it not? Why is it difficult for active planning to happen?
It's a really difficult question because it's related with the culture back again, the cultural, the social value that your communities have, your country have. For example, in Indonesia, because we regard cars important, that it shows which level you are in the
Economic
society,
status,
yeah, and then your prosperity, and it actually influenced by how the government show themselves
Yeah.
in the public space. For example, in my country, the government official, for example, the head of the department can get like an official car
Yeah.
from the office, and it's usually very
Yeah.
very good. Like in some ways, if you are like the head of the office, then it's
Maybe you
considered
can
like
get a Land Cruiser.
yes,
Yeah.
it's happened. It
Yeah.
happened.
It's the same in Africa, also,
Yes.
especially in Ghana.
Yes. So how the people in the public thinks about those things is follow and they saw these things. So I want to show myself also. So that's the case. If the problems, I am sorry, is inside the government, like mentally how they value things, then it will not be able
Yeah.
to change easily. It's about the value that you believe.
I think it's true because influence is a very strong factor. For instance, so I know fellows who are planning to save to buy cars, because they're in Germany and it's very cheap. But then, for instance, I meet Angela, not because she's the professor of cycling, but she doesn't use a car. I've met some university key, like top people who don't own cars. And then I ask myself, these people are earning more than I do, and they don't even own cars. We are all cycling.
Yes.
So why would I,
Yeah.
why would I even have a car?
Yes.
And it's not because you can't afford a car. I mean, if we go into our savings right now here in Germany, I'm sure most fellows can afford a car, But the German system has created an environment where you don't need to own a car.
No, you can go anywhere, I think, just by bringing yourself.
And you see your leaders. I mean, not all leaders use,
But mostly, like,
but most
still.
of them still do. Yeah, so I think it's about influence, the type of lifestyle. But if you don't portray a sustainable lifestyle, you can't impose it on the people.
Yeah, because I think the most easier thing to say is that people need exemplary figures for that.
Yeah.
If especially the key figures in the government or in the private sector didn't show that you don't have like this kind of exemplary figures, then that's how people will think, how people will do, like behave. That's I think that's the way, because it's like a kid. I think teaching kids is the best way is like giving him like example, so he will see
Learn
it
from the parents,
Yes.
Because daddy is doing and mommy is doing.
Yes.
And it's actually nice when I go cycling, especially on Sundays, over the weekend holidays, and you see children, like families cycling, and you see little children also cycling,
Yes.
and they grow with it.
Yes.
But then it's all because there's a system and there's an environment that supports it. This is not to say that people don't own cars in Germany. People
Yes,
do, but it's an option. You meet people riding the train, you meet people riding bicycle, walking to work, and it's not like they don't have cars at home. They have cars at home, but then they see the benefits it gives them. And most of it, the cars are even used for like long distance travels, family holidays, vacations, and the rest, you know.
Maybe I can say the recent data from the survey in countrywide in Germany. There is very interesting results just in the news in the newest publication. The use of cars is reduced. So it decreased, and people walking more and cycling longer distance. That's the most interesting things happen in Germany right now. So I think that's very possible, even for Germany it took like decades,
2 decades
to do that. Because changes could not be happen like it just like not blinking.
Happen, you know? And the fun part is even automobile companies are also buying into the idea of sustainability.
Yes.
So I think BMW has a bicycle.
Yes.
I cycled through the home shore, and I saw this shop. I think it was a BMW or Benz shop? They had cars and they had bicycles.
They had bicycle, yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
And I also once heard, I forgot this story from, but I think it's from Germans. One my colleagues or my friends here told me there is like a factory in truck factory, something like that, that changed their production from the automotive vehicle to bicycle.
Ooh.
As it's especially the cargo bike.
Like, yeah.
That's very surprising to me because.
So for those who don't know a cargo bike, I would put a picture somewhere. It's a very interesting bike. Like almost every German has a cargo bike. Like it's so crazy. They use it for their parties, the beer, you know, importantly the beer, you know.
my language teacher, my German language teacher, doesn't have any car. She has like 5 bicycles for her family, and in the small like part of the house there is, you know, the cargo that can be connected
to any of the bicycles.
It's very interesting for me.
So I think it's a whole system, and the economic benefits. I don't want us to bore people with the science, the technical things, but what for you are the key findings which you think are applicable to developing countries, since we have similar features when it comes to our transport system? In terms of cycling, how do we convince people that, see, if you park your car, if we all park our cars and we decide to cycle, if we decide to walk to work, or we decide to use public transport, is going to improve our standard of living? Maybe not now, because sustainability is not about the today. Sustainability is about the future. So if you can park your car, or if you can probably even sell your car, and then take on a more sustainable form of transport, and you're able to save for your generation, that is good. Per your data, what were the key findings which you think we could use to influence change when it comes to?
I think maybe we can go through all the indicator that I use to calculate the economic benefits of cycling. So the first thing about physical health. So when people cycling, they get healthier. So they have like better and longer years of living, and then you will be more productive. In the office, you will not get sick too often. So you can use, for example, your leaves, your vacation leave for vacation, for leisure, not for getting sick on the bed. That's the thing. Like it's for personal health and mentally. We need like leisure. Like we need to not work all of the time.
Germans take that very seriously, because I was really surprised when on 1st May. I mean, I just took my bicycle and decided to cycle down from Hofhagerstrasse down to here, and I just kept following the path. I didn't know where I was going, but then I saw a lot of people cycling, a lot of people jogging, and I was like, whoa. So it piqued my curiosity to find out where are they jogging to. And we, at the end of the day, going and coming, I cycled about 22 kilometers, And I was tired because it was the longest I cycled, but I came to work refreshed.
Yes.
I felt quite healthy. I actually felt good, and cycling has been quite a big part of me. So I can relate to that because it builds your cardio also.
Yes.
Your thighs.
Yes.
It gets really. Now I think I can go like I will represent Germany in the next Olympics.
Yeah, you can. Probably. Yeah. Okay, we'll go to the next one.
Yeah, the next one.
Before I go further, I don't want to forget about the emission reduction. It's a lot because of course in the city we don't want to experience like heat
waves.
No, heat effect to the cities.
Yeah.
So it like have an effect that the city will not be like so hot. Yeah. Especially we live in the tropical area. I think that's very important.
You already have the sun hitting you, and then
yes. And this is also could also change our mindset about how we design our streets. Is it necessary we have like very wide street and without trees?
Yeah.
We need to rethink. In a tropical country, for example, in Indonesia is rainforest type of city. So actually we need a lot of trees beside the street, so we can still like cycle and walk very comfortably. Yeah.
And with the reduction in emissions, it also contributes to the health, the first factor you mentioned.
Yes, yes.
You don't have to be inhaling.
That's the pollution.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the next part is the pollution. Yeah.
Okay.
Pollution is from the combustion of the cars, and the second one is from the noise. If we heard about the cars, it's very noisy actually, right? But when you cycling and are walking, then it's lower. The noise pollution is very lower, and it's good for your health because it didn't put yourself in distress. Like your body is not in distress.
Yeah.
And then the next economic benefits is that this is we go to like more economically way. Like for example, in industry, in Germany they have like cycling industry, and it's like have a job opportunity, so people can work in this industry. And it comes from, for example, from the factory until the smallest thing like bicycle service, because I understand that not all the people know how to service your bicycle, and because the recent or the newest bicycle nowadays like electric bike, it needs
a lot of training, some form of training to be able to handle it. Yes.
And especially if we will have like this, for example, cargo bike, it's also will be very different, and we need like specific technician for that. That's the case in the industry sector. And then we also will have like tourism. In Germany they have cycling tourism, and it's growing.
It's very nice.
It's very nice, yeah. So you will have the route, and people will buy from your stores, grocery stores, or like restaurants, and do like purchase. So it will like influence the tax of the city, and then people will stay maybe for like long distance. So they will stay like 2 days, 1 day in the hotel or in some places. So it gives the city money. That's the case. Not everything is calculated, of course, because the size of if you make the purchase, then it's difficult to separate. But that's the idea. That's the economic that the city will get from this kind of things.
So I know we've spoken intensively about the economic benefits, where we are not just looking at the money, but also the health benefits to the people, where you can work longer, be healthy, and all. What do you think, as individuals, we can do, especially for those in Indonesia? What can individuals do as the first step to get governments to act? Because I remember my data I told you, they tell you there's no demand for cycling, so we are not creating infrastructure for it. I'm pretty sure there's the same thing in Indonesia.
Yes, the same thing.
they say there is no demand. So how do we create the demand individually? I know it's easier to say, oh, pack your cars and start cycling, but what do you recommend for individuals to do, local actions, to inform or influence politicians so that they create that environment for people to live long, to earn better, and then, get to the city money?
Maybe for the first thing is that you need to show off often, that you show that cycling is easy and you enjoy it and give you a lot of like enjoyment. That's the first thing, so you can influence the people around you, and then you can talk to maybe your neighbors, your friend, let's go cycling together and like having fun, not for like the purpose of advocacy to the government, but let them enjoy of the joy of cycling. That's what I did in Indonesia for like in 2020 to 2023. They like it and they actually want more. And then after that, the next step is to have like solidarity group that you need to advocate the needs to the government by asking for budget for infrastructure, planning, of course. You need to have a plan if you want to have like best infrastructure things, and do like the first step where you should have cycling infrastructure for the first time. That's very important. And then asking the people maybe that have influence to the other communities. That's very important. And working together, because from what I see here in Germany, that's what I told you before, they have very strong civil society. That's the key.
Like Mike's group, where they signed the whole petition to get.
Yes, that's the case. So if you don't have that, then it's gonna be difficult, because it means that you only rely on the government that probably will not think about it.
Okay. So, last one. Humboldt expects that as fellows, we go back and make an impact. Now,
That's difficult.
That's very difficult, because with the topics we are choosing or we are working on, for instance, they have some elements of politics. I think politics plays a major role in doing it, because you can't just get up and do something. You need to get those at the top who make things happen to make things happen.
Yes.
For you, 2 questions. What do you plan on doing?
My plan on doing? Okay, my plan on doing.
Secondly, I was told we don't have challenges, but we have the problems. Because challenges mean you can work through them, problems mean you can work through them. So, what are the foreseeable problems you see with regards to this, and how do you intend to get around it?
Okay, I will answer the first question about what I will do. The first thing I will do like several visits to my friends, to the cycling communities in Indonesia, like to disseminate my research results. I will have the bigger one, like in the webinar, but I will then meet them in person on what we can do together and what we need to improve together, because again, from what I learned in Germany, they have strong civil society, and that's what I want to bring back to my country, Indonesia, and like how we can make like stronger civil society in cycling in Indonesia. So I need to meet a lot of people and discuss with them. And I also thinking about, is it possible, for example, cycling communities to have like research experts, for example, like giving a backup to them, so they have like very database or very informed decision about cycling, so they can do better advocacy to the government. That's the case, because expert is also one thing that we need to consider when we want to improve our policy.
Advocacy,
Yes,
policy.
that's. I think that's my plan to do, and then foreseeable problems is that, of course, communicating with others is difficult. I think that's the case.
Yeah.
I don't know, because every communities, every people have like different point of view. Yeah, and it usually need times to learn and unlearn what we have learned before. I think the most difficult thing is just unlearn about what we understand, what we believe, especially if we talk about belief. Yeah, that's the thing. And I think the most difficult after that step is that to meet the government, whether we can unlearn together to learn together again. That's the foreseeable problems.
So, sincerely, we acknowledge or we know the challenges going, which we are expected to or we are likely to face going forward. Do you plan on getting the government directly involved in all this? But in order we say we are talking about local actions, and it's nice to see how people are actually cycling past us. They've hide bicycles on their side. How do you intend on making maybe the Minister of Transport aware of your research findings?
In the ministry level, I don't know. I'm not really sure about that because it's like the very top of it. Maybe in the city level, I will go with that because I think it's more easier with all the people on the grassroots level. We can work together, and it's easier to be contacted, so we can meet and talk and discuss. Maybe the first thing that we will discuss about what they actually want, what they actually need. Yeah, and what do they think about the future of our cities, because I think we need to ask ourselves, includes the government, the fundamental things that usually we will not like ask ourselves. Like, what is it necessary to have like wider roads? For whom? And for what?
Because the more you expand the roads, the more cars are going to get to fill them. For how long are you going to expand?
Yes, and especially the government has very like limited budget. We should be aware of that and how we can improve this. I will not do like a dictate on something, but whether we can work this together. Yeah, that's the rough idea. I think also actually the government knows this problem. They know it.
I mean,
they know it.
They always know the problem, but I always think the decisions are also politically backed, financially backed. There's a problem going on in Ghana at the moment. I don't even want to talk about it. I read in the news, I don't know how true it is, but I saw on a couple of WhatsApp statuses where the informal transport sector is saying they would only reduce the transport fares because fuel prices have reduced like significantly. They are only going to reduce transport fares if the government reduces congestion. And I'm like, if I am government and I am to reduce congestion, you are the first people I'm going to remove because you are the ones causing the congestion.
Yeah, it's quite difficult. I think it because transport sector, especially you work with a lot of people. Then you need to communicate a lot. Please don't tire yourself out. Because it's very tiring. It's a very long progress. I think that's also the case in Germany. That's why, for example, in Germany, people here always say that the progress of cycling is very slow. I think that's because also one of the reasons that you need to work with a lot of people. I think you need to change how their opinion on these things, and it takes time, but it's possible. Because Germany, for example, is very different with the Netherlands. The Netherlands see cycling differently with Germany. In Germany, cycling also the same with our country. They see it like still like in a very low position socially. But in the Netherlands, it's not.
But funny enough, I'm just thinking back. when I was in primary school, we had this German in our class, Ike, and Ike's dad used to bring him to school on a bicycle. They were Germans, and his dad used to bring him to school on a bicycle. Like it was a normal bike, I think, like this bike, but it had a seat at the back, and he brought him to school. And I never for once heard anyone say I don't remember, but I never for once remember anyone saying that these people are poor, they don't have money.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because maybe they were white and or
Yeah,
maybe they-
because we see it in our communities, you know, in global south. But here, in Germany, they still consider cars is like the fairy
Yes,
tale.
of course,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course. I mean-
It's just changing slowly because people, especially the younger generations, thinks differently
yeah.
from the older generation.
I think like was it serious data that says that the Gen Zs are more focused on sustainability.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and,
yes. That's the case. So I think it's quite different. Even though like Germany is like just very close to the Netherlands,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
But the people is very different on how they see cycling. In the Netherlands, people think like cycling in the top. So
You can't go on a date. I saw a video. You can't even go on a date with a car in Netherlands. Like if you go on a date in a car, the girl sees you to be like too disrespectful and opulent, you know. But if you go on a bicycle, that's when I was told a couple of times. I think that's why I bought my bicycle, but it's not true. All the rumors say that I bought the bicycle to go on a date with a German girl, but it's not true. But yeah, I mean, in Germany, if you want to go on a date, you don't have to go with a car. You need to go with a bike. If not, the girl will leave you.
no. In Germany, you need to go wander. You need to go hiking.
You need to go wandern, spazieren, Fahrradfahren, oh, Fahrradfahren, right?
Yeah. I think that's very German.
Yeah, very German. All right, so any last words to fellows regarding your research and those who want to come to Germany to do research, especially on the Alexander von Humboldt fellowship?
Yeah, based on my research, I found that there is a lot of potential to be developed from cycling, especially actually give economic benefits to the city. So I think it's a very legit effort, verifiable for us to go through all the advocacy to make our cities better for cycling. And for the people who want to apply for this fellowship,
Yeah.
please brace yourself. You need to try hard because you need to answer a lot of questions, of course, and then you need to develop your proposal very well and try to contact the supervisor. You need to research on them first and who you should contact. Take your time to do this, not to be in a hurry.
No.
So please prepare yourself very well.
I mean, the applications always open in September, so you know it always opens in September. You should start even looking for supervisors now, because you have from now till February to submit your application. I mean, from September to February to submit your application. So if you get your supervisors and they accept that they would host you, then you start putting your proposal together, so that just when the portal opens, you are very much aware of it, and just put it on your calendar. That's every day in September. You're going to check when it opens. But I think for us, for those who applied this year,
It's on October.
it's
October,
open
yeah.
in October, right after our selection process. Just when we finish our selection process, they had opened for. So start looking for a host now, because for most fellows that was the problem. Getting a host was the biggest problem. And mind you, in September they go on holidays,
Yes.
summer holidays.
Yes.
The semester begins also.
They will be very busy.
They'll be very busy till November.
And then December,
Then December they go for Christmas.
it's very long holiday
Yeah.
also until
And then
January.
and then the
Yes.
application ends in February. So you have like very limited time to really look for a host and then get all your proposals ready, and also listen to an experienced Humboldtian and take advice, like really apply for this, because see, it's a life-changing opportunity. I think I've met people,
Yes.
a lot of people.
Yes.
I've learned a lot within this time.
Yes.
The mere fact that I have international contacts alone is like, it's fulfilling. You know, you get to meet people. You just pick your phone. You know who to call. People who you felt were like up there and were very difficult to reach. You know, and I think the fun part about being a Humboldt fellow is the fact that maybe when you're riding a train and they ask Ausweis.
Yes.
And you take out your, you know, and, oh, okay, for sure. Like, you know, you're a researcher. And they see the Humboldt, you know, there is that also, that level of respect you get even within the academic community. You know.
Especially in Germany, Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship is very respected.
Yeah.
Yes, very well respected. So I think, yeah, it's a very something yet that
It is one of the luxury brands when it comes to academia and research. You know? it's like wearing a Prada or a Tommy Hilfiger or a Louis Vuitton. You know, that is what Alexander von Humboldt is, and we work with it with our full chest, and we are happy for the opportunity to be here. And I think maybe you would like to say thank you too.
maybe one last note
Yeah.
also for all the bachelor graduate,
Yeah.
please don't be afraid to apply this
Apply,
fellowship, because I'm still a bachelor
Yeah.
degree. I'm not master or like a PhD.
PhD, yeah.
So you have the chance, but do your best for
Yeah.
it. Okay, I think that's all from
Yeah.
me. I hope you all succeed for your application,
Yeah.
and you can go to Germany and have this experience by yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you, Manuel, for asking me today to talk with you.
It was an honor to get to you, because you are packing out, like she's literally packed out, like Sukma is packed out. She's just left with her plate, come pick her and go to Indonesia. But thanks for making time and sharing your experience with us and your research. I'm very sure a lot would have learned from it. I myself, like I said, I've been following you since I came.
I'm very sorry.
From since LinkedIn, like I was like, whoa. And you know, when you finish your presentation, Angela approached me and she was like, so now what do you think? I'm like, I feel pressured. I feel pressured, you know.
I'm sorry, dear.
I feel pressured, but yeah, I mean, would work through it. She sets a very good base. Her research is very interesting. It's very educative, informative, and you don't need to do much. I mean, it should be as practical as possible, and that is all she did. So don't get scared. If you don't have interest in research, please try and develop that passion for research, because that is what solves everything. Research solves everything. Don't think it's just for those who are in university and
Yes.
no. Even research can help you know which man or woman to marry and all that. Very good research, you know. So yeah. Until we meet again with another episode on research or maybe Humboldt, we say have a nice day and all the best in your applications. Bye.
Bye.